Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year, and welcome to a brand new episode of The Franchise Show, the first one of 2025. So I hope you're all doing well. And what is The Franchise Show? Well, The Franchise Show is a live show. Well, it's live if it's the 7th of January 2025 at 5:15 for about 45 minutes. And we always love, if you are here, for you to comment live and get involved in these discussions, because these discussions are for you. You are the directors and the producers of this show. So we always love you to get involved and put your questions up. And what do we do each week? So every week we take a new topic in franchising and we have a bit of a deep delve into that topic. And this week, the topic is franchise mental health. And we have a lovely guest. We always have a lovely guest, and today is no exception. And we've got Jen Chapman Boffin with us. Fantastic to have you with us, Jen. Welcome to the Franchise Show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. First guest of the year. I'm honoured.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a very important subject. And today we have a little bit of a surprise element to the show towards the end. That's going to be a new feature that we're testing out on poor Jen today. So we will look forward to that and testing it out. And we will let you know what that's going to be later on in the show. So if you could give our wonderful audience, both live and in the future, a little introduction to yourself and what you do and how you've come to be passionate about mental health in our wonderful industry.
Yeah, so I have been in franchising for about 10 years. I joined the industry, like lots of people, accidentally, but once I was in, haven't since left. So I have been kind of all walks of franchising, from franchisors, working with franchisees, the BFA, and why I thought this was a good idea, I'm not quite sure, but it's gone well so far. So also decided to be a franchisee when my daughter was 6 months old, for a children's mental health franchise, Mind Marvels. But I started my business, Cinder, off the back of working with the British Franchise Association during the pandemic. So in that time, I spoke to so many franchisors who were having a real evolution in their role as a franchisor, if you like, where they were having to have really personal conversations with franchisees about their well-being, but didn't have the confidence and perhaps felt they didn't have the know-how to have those conversations effectively and safely. So I decided to start Cinder. So we do mental health first aid training, workshops, conference talks, monthly membership, you name it, anything to look after mental health and well-being in franchising.
Fantastic. A great introduction. And it's such an important topic, not just in franchising, but in business in general. And I think that it's often overlooked, perhaps put into a category of general support. And it's really important to make sure that people are mentally fit and happy. I often speak about a mantra or a goal for franchisors to have happy, successful franchisees. And that particular mantra was told to me by somebody who had introduced 5,000 franchisees across a 50-year franchising lifespan. And, it's the happy part of that is perhaps more complex than the successful part of it.
Yeah, I think they go hand in hand, really. And I have this really weird thing about happiness, right? So I think that happiness is a goal for a lot of people, but to be consistently happy it's weird, isn't it? No one's consistently happy. Like, life happens, especially as a business owner. Like, I own a couple of businesses, and it's really hard. It's great, it's amazing, but it can be really, really challenging. And especially for people that come into franchising perhaps from an employed background, it's a really steep learning curve and it's a huge roller coaster. So for me, it's all about, my core goal in supporting people is building resilience. and so that people can actually ride those waves of franchising and of self-employment. Happiness along the way, absolutely, of course we want that, but to me it's really about being able to see those peaks and troughs through, and grow from them each time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make a very valid point. You know, when we talk about what happiness is, it can be contentment, and it can, you can still, like you say, if you're resilient to things, I think even when things are difficult, even when things are tough, you can maintain a level of not happiness, but that you can cope with that. And I think it's really
Exactly.
very important. Before we continue and get further into this conversation, let's recognize a few people who have joined us here live. We have the ever wise Simon Wise. Great to have you with us, Simon. And Simon has put Happy New Year, franchise friends. Do you know what? I forgot to do something at the beginning. It's because I've had 3 weeks off from this, and I'm going to do it now, right? This is the show where we get under the hat of the most important topics in franchise. I've got to do it, and that proves it's live. It also proves I didn't do this over Christmas. Anyway, great to have you here, Simon. He's put Happy New Year, franchise friends. Well, Happy New Year to you and to everyone listening. I hope 2025 is going to be a good one for everybody. We've also got Katrina Newman here, and Katrina's put, hi, Jen and Harvey, looking forward to the surprise.
Hello, very ominous, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll give you a clue. It might be about a hat. Okay, there's a clue. We've also got the lovely Liam Hobbs from More Than Loft Ladders. Good to have you with us, Liam. Great to hear your thoughts on mental health, and how you and your franchisees promote good mental health and how you support that. And we've got a good question, so let's get into it here. We've got a question that's come up from Simon. So Simon's put, are we particularly susceptible to mental health issues in the franchising industry? This is a really good question, isn't it? Because mental health is important in employment. It's important when you start your own business. But franchising is quite a unique set of relationships, isn't it? And do you think we are more susceptible, or are we more protected?
I think there's loads of different angles, and I think it depends on what the franchisor is doing to support that. So a lot of people enter franchising to get that work-life balance, to improve their mental health and well-being, so that they can take control of it and do the things that they want to do for themselves and for their life. So in that aspect, you could think actually franchising could improve things. There are an awful lot of statistics to say, I won't start reeling them off now because you won't shut me up, but there are loads of statistics about how business owners, particularly self-employed business owners of small businesses, can really struggle with their mental health more so than those who are employed. So in terms of loneliness, additional stress, financial concerns, there are a lot of statistics to suggest that business owners feel those challenges more so. I think people also join franchising to be part of something bigger, so to have that support from a head office and from a franchise network. But I think that then really comes down to the franchisor, and what kind of support they provide. So do they offer their franchisees any forms of communication with each other, support, opportunities to check in? There's so much of an emphasis, isn't there, on the individual at point of franchise recruitment. But for some brands, not all at all, there are a lot of incredible ones. Liam, in particular, who's with us today, is massively working towards supporting his franchisees, which is incredible. So there are a lot of franchisors doing a lot of things, but it seems to be that often once the franchisee actually joins the network and runs the territory, the emphasis then goes on their business rather than them as an individual. But actually, it's them as an individual that is firing the business, is running that territory, and without them, a lot of franchise territories wouldn't be there. So I think really there's loads of arguments for each. Like, yes, we could be, but there's also so much that we could do as an industry to support franchisees. It's actually a nice opportunity to kind of announce it, I guess. I want to find out more about this and what experiences are there for franchisees and franchisors across the industry. So very soon into the year, I'm going to be launching the industry's first franchise wellbeing survey to actually get some real hard data about that. So see what are the challenges faced, are we particularly susceptible, in what area and why, and actually what can we do about it. So that survey is going to go out to the entire industry. So I'm really
is that an exclusive for our show?
It is, yeah. It's an exclusive. So there you go, right at the start.
Fantastic. And what a great idea, because before we tackle mental health problems, if they exist, we need to know, do they exist? Where do they exist?
Yeah.
What are they? And therefore, then how do we best help people and promote good mental health? So when does that start? Did you say? Sorry.
So likely to be launched end of February, beginning of March.
Fantastic. Well, I will certainly look out for that and promote it where I can, because it's something that I'm very passionate about, keeping people's mental health good, keeping people resilient, and I think it's a great thing to do. So well done on that. Let's have a look. We've also got the wonderful Penny Hopkinson. Penny is one of our lovely sponsors, and Penny is going to be very impressed, because even though I'm in the office today, I bought a book in. So is it going to be the right way round, Penny? Oh, no. It is. Penny, of course, wrote the wonderful Manual Magic, and is certainly someone you would want to reach out on your manuals. So Penny has put this: having experienced long COVID and its impact on my mental health in 2022, are we sitting on a time bomb of undiagnosed mental health problems from the pandemic? And should this be better recognized in franchising? I think the pandemic in general really did various things. I mean, it was a very difficult period of time, but I think people got quite a bit of time to think. What's your thought on long COVID, the pandemic, and how that affected things?
So I think with the pandemic, in some ways, in terms of awareness of mental health, it kind of did it favors in some ways, because I think people that had never had any experience of poor mental health, whether that's directly themselves or firsthand from someone close to them, they sort of had their eyes opened, because so many more people did experience challenges with their mental health. And I think with any kind of awareness comes an appreciation of how important something is and the impact it can have. So in some ways it was a positive, but I think the difficulty is the awareness of mental health challenges and people realizing that actually perhaps how they feel and how they've always felt, they don't need to feel that way, is kind of going up at this rate, but the amount of support available is going up at this rate. So we've got this big chunk of people who are aware they need support, are reaching out to get it, but have to wait because the resource for support isn't there. So what I want us to do as an industry is equip ourselves to recognize and be able to see some of those signs and symptoms, reach out to people and provide them that interim support until they can get professional help if that's needed. But I think it's also, the pandemic did a lot for people in raising kind of awareness and ways that people can look after their own well-being, because to me it's not necessarily about waiting until someone's struggling. Actually, the best thing to do is be really proactive about it and actually put steps in to look after well-being so that it doesn't dip right down, and actually you're able to make those maybe smaller tweaks so that it doesn't drop right down.
Absolutely. Simon's just put up a comment actually, and I was just about to say this. I would say that, wouldn't I? But, but I like this one. Simon's put, how do you spot the warning signs for struggles with mental health for both franchisees and employees? I think this is really, really important for anyone, a franchisor, a franchisee, a business owner, an employee, for anyone to, we talk about symptoms of physical conditions to look out for, whether that's cancer or heart conditions. And it's widely publicized what those symptoms are and how we should look out for those. And I think it's even more important, or certainly equally important, to look out for those signs and symptoms or struggles in mental health. Are there some good ones to sort of start with that people can look out for?
Yeah, it's a really good point, because actually your mental health and physical health is so closely linked as well. There's such a high correlation between high levels of stress and your immune system, your digestive system, your nervous system. They're so closely linked and they go hand in hand. But I think really it's about equipping yourself with not only the knowledge of what those sort of warning signs are, but also having the confidence to be able to approach someone if you see that there's a struggle. Everyone is so different, so there's not like a list of, this is suggesting that something's wrong with someone. Obviously, if people are tearful, can't get out of bed, extreme temper, low mood, things like that, those are pretty clear warning signs. But I think what is the key thing to do is, just like with physical health, early intervention is key. So the earlier that you can spot those signs, the better. The way to do that is by increasing your self-awareness, or your awareness of your franchisees or your peers, of what their baseline is. So whatever their norm is. So you're talking things like sleep levels, mood, appetite, all of those basics, productivity levels, kind of how much they engage socially, whether that's at events or online events like this, what their interaction levels are. So it's really getting to know what someone's baseline is, and then having the insight to see when there are changes. So a change in a person is the key, is the very, very early warning sign.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well, to understand that I suppose a baseline is unique to an individual as well. So your norm is where that line is different to different people, isn't it? And I think you've got to really, it's difficult because it's perhaps nuanced. So you've just got to listen and look out for and get to know those individuals.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really about respecting what makes each individual who they are. And I appreciate a lot of people see mental health as quite a wishy-washy subject, but actually, we've got such an incredibly high suicide rate. And I have spoken to, even doing what I do, I'm still shocked at the amount of franchisors I've spoken to who have lost franchisees either to suicide or to the point that their mental health has gotten so challenging that they have to just walk away. They're not even selling their business, they're just walking away. So yeah, it's something we have to equip ourselves with, that knowledge and confidence to be able to see those signs.
Yeah, I mean, you've said something there that is so important and so sad. I read a statistic that suicide is the biggest killer of, I think, of males in the UK, and obviously it affects people of both genders. But I think it perhaps highlights how important it is to talk to one another, to listen to one another, to create spaces, to tell people it's okay to not be okay. I'm going to name drop Ryan from Teslon as such a brilliant advocate.
Oh no. It's live, isn't it?
I'm back. Hello. I'm so sorry. You know what? That is the joy of things being live. You see. So
No, technology.
you know what that was? That was the fact that the reception in this building is so bad that I have to tether off my phone, and my phone just died.
I thought it was just a live demonstration of how to induce severe anxiety.
I'm so sorry. Hugs. Sorry about that. Right, here we go. We are back, and hopefully we are all good. Batteries connected. Right, there we go. Let's have a little look. We've got some great questions come in. Let's recognize the fact that we've got a few people joined us as well. If you have just joined us, this is the Franchise Show, and today we are talking franchise mental health, and I just demonstrated the fact that the internet sometimes doesn't help your mental health. But look, it's great to have some people here. We also have Paul Sims from Pittsburgh in the US of A here. Great to have you here, Paul. Let's have a look at something that Liam's put in here as well. So Liam's put, I am a massive advocate of mental health support in all workplaces, especially franchising. Running your own business can be a very lonely place at times. And as a franchisor, I feel obliged, as should all business owners, to provide a facility to help anyone in their business who may be suffering with poor mental health. Franchising as an industry has a great opportunity here to take the lead and show the rest how it's done. Fantastic comment, Liam. Thank you so much for that. And you're right. You're absolutely right. You know, just before I disappeared, you know, we were talking about the fact that in franchising, you know, it's a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it? Because as a franchisor, you give support to a franchisee, and that's part of the reason that you become a franchisee, because you're perhaps not going to be as lonely. You know, certainly when you start a new business, you can be surrounded with people, but still be very, very lonely, because it's how you're feeling, not necessarily who you're with, that, you know, it is that indication, isn't it?
You can be in a room full of people and still feel lonely, can't you? And I think exactly as Liam said there, as an industry, actually, we've really got the opportunity to show the way, because we promote on all franchise recruitment materials, probably every single brand, that you're not alone. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. You're as part of a network. So actually, we've got to then prove that, haven't we? If we're saying that, it's not just about being with other people when it comes to your marketing and your sales. Actually, it's about going through all of it, all of those highs and lows. And before you dropped off, you were talking about the statistics of men and suicide. I know this is a really intense conversation for 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, but I think it's a really important one. And you're right. So it's suicide is the biggest killer of men under 45 in the UK, and also it's the highest cause of death in women following the first 2 years of giving birth, which really shocked me, especially as a new mum myself. A lot of women, particularly in sort of children's activity sector within franchising, or whilst on maternity leave, they reassess their life, what they want to do, how they want to support their family. As an industry, we often promote franchising as a way to kind of curate the life and lifestyle that you want, and that work-life balance. So it can attract new parents. And actually, with those statistics, and it still being a very male-dominated industry, actually, I feel like we've got a responsibility. If we're purposely attracting people like that in, we need to then look after them. And actually, it makes business sense as well. As one of the things that I always say with mental health is that actually, if you as an individual are thriving, your business will as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important for us as an industry, and so important on platforms like this and during shows like this to tell people it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to say I'm not right today. And as I say, there are some really good examples of people who do that, and Liam and Ryan are great examples of that. You know, if you put it out there, And, with men and women, and, you mentioned there about sort of during maternity leave, and it's probably partly it's a big change, and you get lots of time. Well, actually, not lots of time, but in a different way. I won't say lots of time. Perhaps lots of time late at night when you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
But also you get sleep deprivation. You're very tired. Hormones are different. There's all sorts of things, both as a mum and as a dad. And I'm a dad of, well, 2 boys who are pretty much grown up now, but and 2 wonderful step boys as well. But when I think back to that time, it can be a real strain. And if you're trying to run a business at the same time as doing that, it's really important to talk to other people. Let's have a little look, because we've got lots of comments coming in here. So let's get through these. So let's have a look at what Penny said here. Penny has said again, it demonstrates it's live. Well, it certainly is live, and that's what happens. This isn't edited, this isn't polished. This is a conversation, and just like in life, this has its ups and downs, and things go wrong, and we have to be resilient and bounce back, and it's okay for things to go wrong. And I think that's why I like doing it live. It's why I prefer that than it being recorded, because it's a conversation. Really, yeah, we're not editing it. Also, I'm too lazy to edit it anyway, so
save yourself a job.
So once this is done, it's uploaded and done. So let's have a quick look here at what Paul's put. We individuals must put our best selves forward to be kind to everyone, and to make that someone smile will work wonders. I love that, Paul. What a great thing to say. I do a thing unrelated to franchising on a Sunday where I try and help anybody who's lost their job and is looking for a new job. I'm not a recruiter like the lovely Simon Wise, but it's just a nice thing to do. And, a bit of kindness goes a long way, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And I think the more that we can provide each other that element of support, the better.
Yeah, the more that we can listen. And I think listen with intent. And sometimes you'll see me looking away, and it's because I don't write anything down before, but I certainly do when we're talking, because it's important to listen with intent, and to truly listen to someone. They can be talking and you can be not talking, but that doesn't mean to say you're listening. And I think it's important to let them know that. We've got a few comments coming up. Let's just introduce someone who I think is new to the show. It's Sam Taker. I can't see or hear anything. Well, that was my fault, because the internet cut out, but hopefully you can see and hear things well now. And great to have you with us, Sam. Let's have a look. We've also got Sanjay with us. Always good to have you with us, Sanjay. Sanjay is our resident franchise funding expert. And look, we've got the wonderful Jason Kaber from SeoSamba, and look at that, your QR code has come up on the screen, my friend. Oh, and while we're doing that, I'm going to take a little break at this point, and I want to put up this QR code, because SeoSamba, I first heard of SeoSamba when they did the franchise influencer list. And this was a list of people that make a difference to our industry for various different reasons. And I believe the voting will close tomorrow. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but scan that QR code to vote for any of the wonderful people in our industry. You don't have to vote for me if you don't want to, but but yes, please have a look at that, because there's some fantastic people that were on the list last year as well. Great to have you here as well, Jason. Let's have a look at a comment here from Simon, and we've got a great one coming up from Sam. And also from Sanjay, so we will definitely get to those as well. And Sanjay, Simon has put, don't know if there are any lawyers on board the call, but how far do franchisors' obligations in the agreement extend to mental health and well-being? Does it come under the broad heading of good faith, which is very much in the news right now? This is really, really interesting, actually, because if we're good people, if we're good franchisors, if we're good franchisees, we want to look out for those around us and our franchise colleagues. But how do we and should we make that into a sort of a formal agreement? Should it be part of that? Or do you think it should just be something that is part of being a good person and hopefully people will do it?
Well, it's an interesting question. So there have been, I know of at least 3 legal cases that have gone in the favour of a franchisee, whereby mental health support hasn't been present when it's been found that it should be. I don't know if I've worded that right, but hopefully you get the gist.
Yes.
Physical first aid is a legal obligation, isn't it, within sort of employed settings. There's a bill going through Parliament at the moment to make mental health first aid a legal obligation as well for companies, which I think is a brilliant thing to do. You are much more likely to face, I would say, a mental health challenge within a workplace than physical. I think I'm basing that on anecdotal, but I know that I was a physical first aider for 7 years and all I did was give a paracetamol, whereas I talked to people about them being stressed or feeling low or anxious on a weekly basis, just, you know, as a colleague when I was in employed roles. So I think there's a few different angles there, isn't there? There's the fact that a lot of franchise brands employ a head office team, in which case legal sort of employer-employee obligations are there. So duty of care, Healthy and Safety at Work Act, things like that. Apologies if you can hear the crying. That's my daughter having to go.
No problem. No problem. That's
but then,
all part of the joyous fun of being a parent and doing a live one of these.
exactly.
We love it. We love it. And I had the honour of meeting your daughter beforehand. So she's always welcome to be a guest.
Thanks. So Sam, with your comments there, I totally get that. Trying to do all of the kind of running a business.
Let's get that one up, actually. Let's get that one up. This is I'm going to read this comment out. It's a long comment and a great one, so I'm going to read this out. Thanks so much for taking the time, Sam, to put this comment in and be part of the show. So Sam's put, I find as the owner, I have to be at the front of it all and not show weakness. I keep my team happy, but then carry the weight on my shoulders. It's hard going and the stress is real. 18 months in, I don't have that work-life balance yet. I've had to take a real look at this, and my main goal for this year is to find that work-life balance. I've started by reintroducing exercise into my life and eating healthier. It's hard work bringing up 2 children, running a home and a business. I guess you can make that choice when you build your franchise. You can start small or you can go big. But my mindset was never to start small. It's always important to me to look after everyone else first. That's such a powerful comment, Sam. Thank you so much for that. And I mean, I'm going to pick out a few things from this that I think are so relevant. And the first one that I want to pick out and see what you make of this, Jen, is about looking after everyone else first. I think that's a lot of good people are guilty of that. Do you think that's the case?
Absolutely. I think it's such a common thread through franchisors as well. You know, from the nature of what you do, you're offering opportunities for people to run a business that they love and builds the life that they want. So as part of your nature as a franchisor, particularly franchisor founders, you do look after other people before yourself. But there's the oxygen mask analogy, whereby if you don't look after yourself first, you're not going to be in a position to look after other people. So it's that cheesy saying as well, isn't it? You can't pour from an empty cup, but actually it's so true. There is a limit to how long you will be able to do that. As resilient and powerful as anyone can be, you can only do that for so long. You can only give so much. And I think another really important part to pick out of your comment, Sam, is the fact that actually I've gone brain fog there. Let's have a look at it. I was just saying,
one of the things I was going to pick out. No, it's no problem. It's okay. One of the things I was going to pick out there, actually, which I thought was really, really important, was the fact that you have this thing about not showing weakness, right? And
that's it. That was the one I was going to pick too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, look, you continue now, because I think that's really important. That failure, weakness, they've had traditional negative connotations, and they shouldn't. They really shouldn't.
No,
the most successful people in the world fail all the time and will continue to, and weakness, vulnerability. You should show vulnerability because we're human, aren't we?
It's one of the best things that you can do in terms of advocacy for mental health and encouraging people to open up themselves, is to show that element of vulnerability yourself. There's a fantastic woman called Dr. Brené Brown who talks really openly about vulnerability and leadership. So she's a fantastic person to speak to. I sound like her PR agent, but she's got a really good podcast on Spotify, which is all about leadership and vulnerability and empathy and all of those kind of core things, qualities that you need as an effective leader. And she really talks about the fact that actually showing that vulnerable side yourself will really encourage those around you, particularly those that you lead, to do the same. And the more that you can build that kind of safe culture, so we call it a psychologically safe workplace, whether that's employed or a network, the better, really. That's how you're going to create that kind of safe space where people do feel like they can be talk and be vulnerable with you. Obviously, as a leader, there's a certain extent you do want to perhaps be a bit of an umbrella in terms of catching some things, but it's absolutely okay to show some level of vulnerability. And I think, I don't know about you, but there used to be this real culture, particularly on LinkedIn, of this like people almost bragging about not having a work-life balance. I'm not for a second suggesting you're doing that, Sam, by the way. That's not like a passive aggressive thing whatsoever.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It was almost this thing of like, yeah, I work every day on holiday and I never take a break, and it was almost that kind of thing. Whereas actually now, I think I'm really happy to see that we're doing exactly what you said there, Sam, about trying to prioritize your mental health and actually making that a part of a functionality of you as a business leader. So that big goal that you're talking about of getting to that, that big peak of scaling your business. If you're familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs model within leadership, if you look at the base of that, so to get to self-actualization, the top bit, which is, where we all want to be, that's our best version of ourselves. The only way you can build up to that is if you have that base layer, that base pillar, and that is all about your basic needs. So are you hydrated enough? Are you sleeping? How is your physical, mental health? The next bit is your environment. All of those absolutely encompass your well-being. So, when people talk about having a separate personal and work self, to me that doesn't really exist. We coexist. You're the same person. You can have that professionalism, absolutely, but ultimately you are that same person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are little tricks as well. Someone that I know and value their advice gave me a little trick, and I don't know if this is true, but if you're having an anxious moment, and I'm not talking here about really sort of assessing something and trying to put things in place to create a better route for mental health. I'm just talking about a moment of anxiety. And what they said to me is, if you take a ball and you throw it in the air and catch it in your other hand, that uses both parts of your brain, and your brain struggles to do the being anxious and the coordination of catching the ball. And it, for a moment, can just sort of do a little reset. I mean, I think any little tricks, anything that works for you is always worth sharing, because what harm can throwing a ball up in the air and catching it do, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great example of a grounding technique. And what that does is it stops that fight or flight response within your mind and body. So when we have that fight or flight response, it's an evolutionary thing to keep us safe. It's life preservation. It comes from caveman times when we used to have to fight or leg it from a saber-toothed tiger. Luckily, we don't have to do that anymore. But our
You haven't met my cat. You haven't met my cat.
yeah, not yet. Just maybe a Scottish Terrier in the other room. But our mind and our body's immediate response hasn't evolved from that. So although the cause of stress isn't a saber-toothed tiger, our body still physically reacts as though it could be preservation for life. So it floods our body with adrenaline and cortisol. What we need to do with any grounding technique, whether it's throwing a ball in the air, whether it's doing a breathing technique, it's all about letting your brain know that actually you're okay, and you can stop doing that fight or flight response.
Absolutely. Gosh, today's flown by. It's been really, really interesting to me, and as important as I knew it would be as a conversation to have in our industry. I know I'm gonna have to call upon you again to have this conversation at some point in the future, if that's all right with you, Jen, as well, because it's really important. I love what you're doing for our industry. I really do. I think you're making great waves, and waves in the right way to help people. Let's see if we can squeeze in one more question, actually, because Liam's put something here, and I think it's worth us reading this one out as well. So Liam's put, I had my second breakdown as a franchisee due to the overwhelming pressures of running a business. There was no support in our network at the point, which is why I swore to support this when I became a franchisor. As a leader, I am, moved up just as I was reading it. As a leader, I'm very happy to share my personal experiences of poor mental health to highlight that it's okay not to be okay. We are all vulnerable at times and need to know we are not alone. Really, really important. I love that, Liam. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Really, really important. Let's finish with Sam, and Sam's put, thank you both. I've not actually heard of the work-life bragging. Once that I have that work-life balance, I will be bragging.
Absolutely, do.
Not, yes. Hurdles, challenges, and tears are real. Some great advice there, guys. Thank you. Glad I jumped on to listen. Mental health is super important to me. Thanks again. Well, it's important to me, and it's certainly important to Jen as well. And it should be something that, as we've said, we should take a lead on this in our industry, because it's really important to make sure that, you know, that we're aware of how people are feeling and what that baseline is. I think that was really important what you said, and to listen to people. Well, look, we have got to the last 5 minutes, and you know what that means. It's time to unveil something. Okay.
Mysterious.
This is a new feature for the show. We talk all about franchising, and all about the topic, but we don't really talk about the guest. So we are starting a new feature on the show in the last 5 minutes or so, where we're going to talk to the guest about them. And that's what we're going to do right now. But it's going to involve, we all talk about wearing different hats. So I'm going to be turning my camera off right now. This time it's intentional. And give me one moment. So I have a new hat. Ta-da!
Beautiful hat.
Now, this particular hat has been made by the wonderful Paul Murphy of PJ Murphy and Sons, bespoke British hatters. And he's made me a lovely hat. I am so excited. And this is a hat that I will be wearing for this last part of the show, while we ask our wonderful guest some lovely questions about them. There's a QR code on the screen right now that takes you to Paul's website, and he's a fantastic chap, so do connect with him. I probably need to wear it like that. He'll probably tell me how I should be wearing this one. New hat though. So anyway, Jen, so it's time to find out a little bit about you. So I'm going to ask you about maybe your hobbies, or have you got a claim to fame? Let's get under the hat.
Goodness me. Okay, right. So hobbies. I must admit, actually, my hobbies have really dwindled since I've become a mum. So I haven't done an awful lot for myself, but I did used to do theatre makeup.
Oh,
So
okay.
I always really enjoyed that, being in the hustle and bustle of the backstage, and doing theatre makeup. So that is something I've always done.
Have you
Claim to
met anyone famous? Have you met anyone famous ever?
Have I? I don't know. Yes, I have actually.
Oh, who have you met?
George Clark from George Clark's Amazing Spaces. Not perhaps an A-lister, but he
Oh,
did
very good.
kiss me on the cheek.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. That's pretty good.
So there we go. I'll take.
Fantastic. You can ask me a question if you want. Maybe I should do that in this part of this. You can ask me any question you like.
Okay.
Go on.
It's not going to be take the hat off, is it?
You can ask me any question you like.
Apart from that one. Okay.
Apart from that one.
Okay. So what about, have you told the story of the hat? Where did the hat come from?
I have told most people the story of the hat. The hat came from a wonderful chap called Don Cohen. And about 2 years ago, I was looked at his show that was very much like this. And it was all about the audience. It was all about bringing other people up, and I loved it. So I commented just like the wonderful people here did. And then I was asked to be a guest, and I was a guest 4 or 5 times. And he wore a hat. So I thought I should probably get myself a hat. I got one. Someone made a comment about Indiana Jones, which was enough to make me wear it again. Then I wore it at various franchising events, and suddenly people started to notice I was wearing a hat. And I decided either I should stop wearing the hat or make the hat a thing. And I think you can guess what I've done. There is a shortened, condensed version of the story of the hat. There you go. Well, look, thank you so much for your time today, Jen. And I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who has been with us today live. I'm sorry about the slight technical issue, but that is part of the fun of it being live. Just before we go and talk about what's coming up later this week, perhaps you could let people know the best way to get in touch with yourself if they would like to find out about your services.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So I'm constantly on LinkedIn. I won't lie. I use it all the time. So that is probably where I am the most active and present. So it's Jen Chapman Boffin. It'll be linked on the event, and also website. So it's cinderltd.co.uk, and there you can book a call, and we can just have a chat a bit like this. So everyone has different budgets, timelines, priorities. So for me, it's not kind of an off-the-shelf thing. We make something that works for you and your brand. So probably best to start with a chat, I would say.
Fantastic. Like I say, a chat with the hat.
Absolutely. I can't guarantee everyone.
Yeah. And if Jen, if you could drop into the comments on LinkedIn how to get in touch with you, then that will be there forevermore, and people can reach out to you that way as well. So let me talk about our wonderful sister show, which is also beginning for the first time in 2025 this Thursday. And we're going to be talking to Sarah Cresswell, OBE. Never spoken to an OBE, so we're going to find out what that's like. And we're going to be finding out what's under the hat of the Creation Station. So that's going to be a fantastic episode. Please join us 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST for that. And next week on the Franchise Show, Tuesday, the 14th of January, we are going to be talking with Monty Clark and Brittany Satterfield. And we're going to be talking about how to win at franchising in various different ways. So until next time, take very good care and see you then. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.